I still remember when I did my first sound bath. Now, if you've never done this, it's often at a yoga studio where you lay in a quiet room, immersed or bathed in sound waves like drums, gongs, or singing bowls. It's a meditative experience, and when we were complete and sitting in a sharing circle, I'll never forget one of the women there. She said, "Oh, great. Here I am in the protective bubble of bliss, and now I have to go back to my office and get bathed in chaos." And I laughed and said, just draw a circle around your body and tell anyone who comes near you to respect the bubble. Yes, when we get into a totally excellent vibrational frequency, it feels so good that we just want to stay there. And today, we're going to talk about becoming a vibrational match for what we desire and how to hold that frequency or how to stay in that high frequency bubble until what we want materializes. This podcast is all about helping you with your spiritual growth so you can overcome obstacles and manifest your destiny to crystallize all things good, basically, to have success on life's journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. So let's get started. Hi there, and welcome. My name is Remy, like Do Re Mi. I'm a best-selling author and creator of the Get Unstuck Revolution. I help extraordinary women just like you dissolve the obstacles in your path so you can bring success to you. Now let's get started with today's video. Okay, let me jump off the screen here and switch to my laptop. Today, we're talking about how to hold the vibrational frequency for what we desire. I get so many questions about this, how to raise our vibration or how to become a vibrational match. It seems that you all love embracing your inner Einstein as much as I do, because you tell me so often how you love that quote to match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. I know that for me, it's probably my biggest success tip. If you'd like to see success in full abundance along life's journey, and if you're wanting to tap into a greater knowingness and align with the higher consciousness of your infinite self, instead of the lower ego thinking and the negative thoughts that push success away, then this is for you. It's time to be unabashedly, unapologetically, happily untethered to ego thinking. It's time to align with the higher energies of our soul's path instead. This is for you if you wonder, how exactly do we become a vibrational match for what we desire? Will affirmations help with this, or is there a better way to use them? What if I sometimes want this and sometimes I want that? How do I break that pattern so that I can align with what I really want? Yes, these episodes are about how to find your hidden power when you want to transform challenges into successes. I like to call it the audacity of alchemy. Because when we're feeling stuck, it's never the situation that has us stuck, it's our energy about it that's become stuck in anxiety, overwhelm, doubts, worries, frustrations, indecision, and even anger. And often this is because of a spiritual injury that we've experienced, some kind of hidden trauma. So it isn't the pain of our situation, it's the pain of not being connected into the natural energy of who we really are, of being connected to that magical part of us that's a creative vibrational being who can use positive energies to create what we want and bring it into physical manifestation. We can allow our manifestations to materialize and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them. These positive energies that we talk about so much are where we find the magic of alchemy, because our choice of frequency, our choice of those positive thoughts and emotions can change the course of our journey. Now, we know that thoughts create reality. We know it's an exact science, but it isn't just our thoughts or the affirmations or mantras we recite. It's the energy or the vibration that we carry with those thoughts. So take a moment and think back to what you had for breakfast this morning. What's your thought? Is it a good thought or a not so good thought? Now, I can't remember my own breakfast today, but I do know the pasta I had last night for dinner. It was bitter and it was a disappointment. So, my vibration about my dinner will follow my thought, and that's a vibration of disappointment. Now, think back to last weekend. What was the best thing about it? What was the worst thing? Now, for me, I had to make a drive about an hour and a half away, and that was pretty ordinary, but I missed a turn and took the wrong freeway home. That freeway was under construction, and I never got above 11 miles an hour, and I wondered if I'd get back home inside of 3 days' time. So I had a lot of thoughts during this trip, most of them negative, even though I have a fancy sound system in my car and could tap into any amazing podcast of my choosing. Overall, my vibration, though, was based on my thoughts. My vibration about the trip followed my thoughts, and that vibration was mostly irritation and annoyance. But in both of these instances, whether we're looking back to yesterday's breakfast or the adventures of last weekend, we always have a choice to change our frequency, to change our thoughts about our experiences. And in changing our thoughts, we can change our vibration. In changing our vibration, we change our reality. But what do we do instead? Well, we have this habit of looking around and observing our life, like the freeway, and thinking thoughts about what we're seeing. We don't usually have the discipline to think about what we're creating in our vibrational world. We think about what we're seeing in our physical experience because it's right there in front of us. As we observe these situations around us and we have thoughts about our situation, there's a matching vibration. A lot of times we may not be happy with what we're seeing, and so our thoughts about it can carry a negative vibration. Now, the reason I say this is because today we're talking about how to become a vibrational match for what we desire. We aren't talking about how to become a vibrational match for what's already in front of us. Make sense? We're wanting to become a vibrational match for what we desire, especially if we're going through an ascension. This idea of vibration and frequency and all that is at the top of our minds. All right. So instead of observing the life that's in front of us, we want to observe the life that isn't in front of us, not yet anyway. And this takes a little bit of imagination, right? So that's the first thing to know, and I'll put this on the screen for you, is to stop looking at physical reality and feeling unhappy about where we are. If we're going to look at our physical reality, then we'd better find something positive. We'd better look for the blessings. And that's the first thing to know, is to stop looking at the present physical reality. We want to shift our attention to our desires and what we'd like to create next. Now, this isn't an easy habit to break because for a long time we've been thinking about exactly where we are, maybe for years, maybe for decades. We don't have the job we really want. We aren't in the relationship we really want. We aren't in the financial status we really want, and so on. So, for a long time, we've been thinking about exactly where we are and how to fix it. And we may be carrying a vibration of boredom or dissatisfaction or even disdain. So it's time to flip that switch and think about our desires instead. Where are we headed? Because otherwise, things aren't likely to change. Our dissatisfaction literally holds what we don't want right here in place. Make sense? Okay. To become a vibrational match for what we desire, it may seem silly, but we have to press the pause button on life around us and shift our focus toward our desires. Thoughts create reality, and it's an exact science. And let me add to that, we attract what we think about and that which we affirm in our lives. As we think about our current life situation, we're affirming it. We have these automatic affirmations constantly running in our head, right? So, if we have a life situation that we aren't happy with, rather than affirming it by thinking about it, tossing it around, vacillating about what to do, we need to press the pause button or step away from that confusion and indecision and frustration. We need to stop affirming it. We need to instead use practice and discipline toward other affirmations. No matter what our situation is, we can use other affirmations to begin to change our thought processes. Now, one of my favorites is to affirm that the universe is conspiring in my favor to bring me great and wonderful things. But of course, you can use whatever affirmations or mantras work for you. Just remember, whatever affirmation you decide to use to change the thought processes that have been running, remember to also change the energy within these new affirmations. The universe doesn't care about how well crafted our affirmations are, the universe only cares about our energy. All right. So that brings us full circle back to the how question. How can we become a vibrational match for what we desire? Well, step one was to stop looking at our current physical reality, especially if it carries negative emotions. If we can't stop thinking about it, then we better find the positive or find the blessings about our situation to change the energy that's been running. We want to shift our perspective because, as we know from the Course in Miracles, a miracle is a shift in perspective. So we can start there. We can wipe the slate clean and begin with a new vibration. Okay. The second thing we want to do is to swipe left on our current physical reality and shift our focus instead to our desires. In shifting our focus, then we can begin to become a vibrational match. Let me say that again. In shifting our focus away from our physical reality and toward our desires, we can begin to become a vibrational match. Now, there's one more little picky thing that I'd like to point out right here. We want to remember how literal the universe is. It isn't personal. In fact, universal energies are very impersonal. The universe doesn't understand the context behind our story. In fact, it doesn't care about the story or the words at all. The universe only cares about our vibration. We can use all the words and thoughts and affirmations we want to, but if the energy behind all that is messed up, our situation won't change. All we have to do is look around at our current physical reality. Look around. It will tell us with 100% accuracy where our thoughts and energy have been. Whatever we have now is a reflection of where our thoughts have been. So we want to shift our focus and shift our energy and vibration. All right. Now, what I love about this, and I don't think we've ever talked about this before, is that we sometimes have patterns of vacillation. We could also call this the power of confusion because vacillation is that back and forth energy. Sometimes I want this and sometimes I want that. Vacillation is a confused energy. We don't want our energy to vacillate. We want to be clear and stable with our energy. I'll give you an example. We may feel like we're in a constant state of lack, and that becomes our reality, of course. But check this out. What happens if we vacillate around the topic of prosperity? Sometimes we feel prosperous, sometimes we feel the lack. Sometimes we feel like we have more money than ever. The next thing we know, poverty consciousness moves in and that becomes our reality again. Or sometimes we feel like we want to be in a relationship, and sometimes we feel like we want to be on our own. Sometimes we want a successful business, and sometimes we think that a steady paycheck is just easier and more predictable. These are all patterns of vacillation. All right. It's popular for law of attraction experts to teach us not to confuse not to confuse the universe. It's popular for these law of attraction experts to teach us not to confuse the universe because the universe will sit back and say, just let us know when you figure out what you want, and we end up stuck. But I'm talking about something a little different here. I've watched these patterns of vacillation with my clients and even in my own life experiences because thoughts create reality. So if our thoughts vacillate and bounce around, in my experience, the universe bounces around as well, following the very patterns we're creating. We are giving instructions to the universe every time we bounce around, and so that becomes our experience. One day we have prosperity, and the next day we don't. Make sense? Now, I've had this in my own life where I've made more money than I thought was ever possible, but then I'd get really busy or exhausted or pulled in too many different directions. And I'd think, man, I need a break. Next thing you know, I'm on that break and money just isn't coming in. It took me a long time to recognize this as a pattern, but I see it in my own clients as well. And in just a minute, I'll show you how to break this pattern of vacillation. But before we go there, I'd like you to write this down and I'll put this up on the screen for you. You must first have for it to manifest. You must first have it for it to manifest. But wait a minute, Remy, if how can you have something that you don't have? How can you have something that you don't have? Well, remember, there's the physical reality and there's the unseen reality. The unseen reality is the unformed reality that's waiting for our thoughts to make manifest the things we'd like to see in our life experience. Both are reality, just two different kinds of reality. One is the physical reality, and one is the unseen or unformed reality. So we want to feel it and believe it as if we already have it, because we must first have it for it to manifest. We're stepping off of the flat board called our 3D reality, and we're stepping onto the multidimensional game board called the unseen reality or the unformed reality. Both are real. We're just going to go and play in that unseen reality just for a little bit. Okay, so we want to feel it and believe it and know it as real, even if it's only real in the unseen reality, which is a real reality that's just as real as our physical reality. So there we go. We must first have it for it to manifest, even if we only have it in the unseen reality. All right, so here comes the first tool for creating that bubble where we match the vibrational frequency of that thing we desire, and it's our imagination. We want to explore and begin to daydream about how it feels to have the thing we want right here inside a bubble. You may have heard me talk about the pink bubble accelerator that we do in one of my workshops, and that's what this is. So imagine stepping into a bubble where our desire already exists. Let's say the desire is for an amazing relationship. Maybe it's a business partner. Maybe it's a love partnership. Maybe it's healing an old friendship. Who are we in this new relationship inside our imagination? How do we think and feel? What are we doing day to day? Where are we spending our time? How has our life changed? We want to get very clear on every single detail inside this bubble that's inside of our imagination, as crystal clear as we can be. Maybe create a story about it, a little fairy tale, if you will. Spend a few minutes inside this bubble. We want to feel like we're immersed and that we are a match to the frequency of this new desire. And we'll know when we're there because we won't want to leave the bubble. And this is how to know when we've reached and matched the frequency because we won't want to leave the bubble. And this is huge. So I'm going to put it up on the screen for you. One of the reasons we won't want to leave the bubble is because our negative ego thinking rarely follows us in there, if at all. Ego likes to live in a logical, practical world. It doesn't even know what to do with itself inside our imagination. And this is a good thing. It allows us to create through our imagination without any negative energy right there inside our very own bubble. So, imagination is one tool. And the next tool is to become the leading character or the star of the show, if you will. Years ago, I joined this performance troupe. This friend of mine had bought a little playhouse, and I was the opening act to warm up the audience on opening night. Now, at the time, Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation had been out for a little bit, and I loved the precision, the military style costumes, the music, everything. And being a dancer, I plugged into one of those videos and choreographed my own routine to her song, Black Cat. Now, I'm dating myself, I know, but the point is, I literally became Janet Jackson. I literally became one of the Rhythm Nation dancers. Just for a moment in time, I was the star of the show. I embodied everything about that video and just killed it. It was one of the absolute highlights of my life opening that show, and I'll never forget it. So, for this tool, we're becoming the star of the show. We're immersing ourselves in our vision, in the feelings, so much so that we become that leading character in our own vision and what we're creating. If actors can step into a role and immerse themselves in every ounce of emotion, we can do that too. So, this isn't just imagination, yes, but no. This is also enveloping who we are and everything we feel while we're inside that bubble. We're feeling it to our core in vivid detail with crystal clarity. We're feeling it deep down, so much so that we won't be able to tell physical reality from the unseen reality because it's just that real and just that clear to us. And this is how we'll know that we've 100% reached the frequency of our desire. We won't be able to tell physical reality from the unseen reality because it's just that real and that clear to us. The magic of this, our ego thinking, it doesn't follow us into the unseen reality. I don't know exactly why this is, but our ego tends to exist only in the logics of physical reality. So going into the bubble, into our imagination, or into this unseen reality where we're the star of the show, it's kind of magical because ego does not chase us down. All right. Now, my last tool for you is my favorite, and this one changed my life, but it's a little bit of a mind bender. So I'll put this on the screen for you as our third tool. Eliminate the yeah buts. And here's what this looks like. I want blank, but not if it means blank. I want XYZ, but not if it means ABC. The yeah buts. I'll put an example up on the screen for you. I want prosperity, but not if it means I'm so busy that I can't breathe. I want prosperity, but not if it means going through the difficulties to get there. I want prosperity, but only if it'll last a lifetime. Sometimes we unknowingly put these yeah buts on the things we desire. We put conditions there. I literally had a client tell me one time that he didn't want to align with prosperity because if he did, that might mean he'd have to go back to work as an engineer. Now, he made a lot of money, but he didn't want to go back to that mess, the boredom, the corporate politics, and about a million other reasons. So he didn't want to align with prosperity because he felt like the universe would pull him back into a place he didn't want to be. And he even said it was ridiculous how this was all tangled up in his mind and in his heart. And this is where the first two tools will serve us so well, our imagination and our ability to become the star of the show, because both of these tools are designed to get us to a place of crystal clarity. We're using our imagination to develop every detail, and then we're stepping into that bubble and becoming the star of the show, becoming who we're meant to be and a part of what we're creating, feeling it to our core until we can't even tell the difference between physical reality and the unseen reality because it's just that real and clear to us. And in that bubble, there are no yeah buts. By getting crystal clear about our desires, we'll be able to eliminate the negative vibration and the yeah buts that can block our desires. Make sense? By eliminating the negative yeah buts, we're free to focus on what we really want to create. All right. Let me layer on one more thing that just might make all the difference for you in becoming a vibrational match for what you desire. I mentioned earlier that I'd show you how to break the patterns of vacillation, how to break the patterns of confusion and the patterns of bouncing around. And this is really about breaking the patterns of the yeah buts. And so here comes the exercise. And if you aren't following along on the audio, or if you're only following along on the audio, this might be a good time to switch over to video so that you can see the exercise as it unfolds. And so here we go. What I'd like you to do is make a list of all your yeah buts. I want blank, but not if it means blank. Begin by brainstorming about the one thing you'd like to have or create, one thing within your vision. Let's use our example of prosperity. I want prosperity, but not if it means blank. And you'll write this over and over at least 20 times, I have found is what it takes to really get to the bottom. So try to find at least 20 buts or 20 conditions that you want this thing, but not if it means something else. So make a list of about 20 buts. And then take your list and go back through it, crossing out the word but and instead using the word even if. So it'll look like this. I want prosperity even if it means blank. I want prosperity even if it means blank. We're taking out the yeah, but and substituting the phrase even if. As you do this, and as you read back through your new list, or as you say your list out loud, which is what I do, you'll at some point uncover what it is you really want. I'll put up some examples for you. I want prosperity even if it means I'm so busy that I can't breathe. I want prosperity even if it means going through difficulties to get there. I want prosperity, even if, and so on. And I'd like you to be working with at least 20 of these yeah buts, 20 of these conditions in order to cross out the but, insert the even if, because we're really fleshing out what it is that you really want. And this exercise is designed to flip that negative ego thinking on its head. So you may uncover what you really want in just a short time, or it may take you a few pages. Just keep at it because I promise your brain will flip this on its head if you just stay with it. But it takes about 18 or 20 times, sometimes a little bit more. Now, for me, the first time I did this exercise, even though I kept fighting my way through it because it was making me really annoyed and super uncomfortable, somehow the word joy kept coming to the surface. And it totally surprised me because that's a word that wasn't in my everyday vocabulary. But this is the word that kept coming out. It's almost as if my very soul was correcting the words that I was writing down. But that's the idea. At some point, the ego will run out of steam and more soulful words and ideas will begin to emerge. That's why I want you to do at least 20. Now, I don't remember the specifics now because that's been quite a while ago, but somewhere down my list, I'd written down something like, I want prosperity even if it breaks me. And suddenly I had this aha moment that what I really wanted wasn't to be broken. I wanted the joy of prosperity. The word and the idea just came to me during this exercise in a way that I could never pinpoint it before. I really think sometimes it's a matter of giving the ego a voice until it just runs out of steam so that something else can surface. So joy became my word. And one of my favorites to this day is I love the joy that prosperity brings me. All right. So do this exercise for yourself and see what comes up for you. Getting rid of the yeah buts that block our desires is huge. We just have to figure out what we really want, whatever that is for you. And so this is an exercise to get those yeah buts that ego will present out of the way. This exercise is designed to help you uncover whatever that is. It's all about getting absolute clarity about our desires on what we really want. So there's no room for negative ego thinking to invade our imagination or our bubble. Getting the right words for our head helps us to get the energy straight. It helps us to raise our thinking. It helps us to get into a higher vibration so that the universe can bring us our desires. And this can be very empowering. As we empower ourselves towards self expression and who we are at our core without the negative thoughts and emotions that can drain us, we're choosing a higher frequency, higher and better thoughts, because our choice of frequency, our choice of more positive emotions, changes the course of our journey. So, reflecting back on everything we covered today, how can you apply what you learned? Have you ever found yourself in patterns of vacillation? If so, this could be the hidden force that's been disrupting who you are when you want to be in vibrational resonance with your greatest desires. All right. I hope this helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. This podcast is all about helping you have success on your spiritual growth journey. It's about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. If you still can't get your head around what's got you stuck in life or in business, you can tell me about it. You can send me a question to questions at unlockyourhiddenpower.com, or you may not know that you can schedule a one-on-one session with your own personal unstuckologist, that's me, by visiting instantbreakthroughsession.com. Well, thanks for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.